Hello, everyone. This is the CircuitPython weekly meeting for May 12th, 2025. My name is Tim, and I am sponsored by Adafruit to work on CircuitPython. The weekly meeting is where we all get together to talk about all the things in CircuitPython land. If you don't know, CircuitPython is a version of Python that is designed to run on tiny computers called microcontrollers, and the development is primarily sponsored by Adafruit. So if you would like to help support Adafruit and CircuitPython, one of the easiest ways to do so is by purchasing hardware from adafruit.com. This meeting gets hosted on the Adafruit Discord server. You can join anytime by going to adafru.it/discord. We hold the meeting in the CircuitPython dev text channel as well as the CircuitPython voice channel. The meeting typically happens on Mondays at 2 p.m. U.S. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, except when that coincides with the U.S. holiday. In the notes doc, which accompanies the meeting, there is a link to a calendar which you can view online or add to your favorite calendar app. And we also will send out we will send out notifications, about the upcoming meetings via Discord. If you would like to receive notifications in Discord, ask to be added to the CircuitPythonistas role. It's the same role you need in order to speak, and we try to ping that role anytime if we are going to be changing the schedule for the meeting. There is a shared notes document, as mentioned, that accompanies the meeting and recording. You can contribute to that document ahead of time. The final notes document includes timestamps to go along with the video, so you can use that notes doc and the timestamps to skip around and view the parts of the video that interest you most. Let's see here. One moment. Actually, I remember something that went wrong last week, and I need to click on something else to make sure I don't make the same mistake. There we go. Okay. Now back to where I was. Okay, so the meeting tends to run about 30 to 60 minutes, depending on how many people we have, due to the round-robin sections. After each meeting, we do post a link to the next week's meeting's notes document over on the CircuitPython dev channel in the Adafruit Discord. You can always check the pinned messages there throughout the week in order to find the upcoming meeting's notes document, and you can fill in your hug reports and status updates at any point throughout the week. The meeting does get held in 5 parts. The first part will be community news. We'll take a look at the CircuitPython and Python on hardware. We'll take a look at all things in the CircuitPython and Python hardware community. We'll look at a chosen set of items from the Python and Microcontrollers newsletter. We will next get into the state of CircuitPython, the libraries, and Blinka. That one is a quantitative overview. We'll run through some of the numbers for the projects. And after that, we'll get into our round robins. So we've got hug reports first, where we can go around, take an opportunity to mention good things that folks have done, and we will go around and call on anyone with notes in the notes doc for that. Next up, we'll do status updates, another round robin where we go around and this time talk about what we have been working on, what you'll be up to until the next meeting, what you've worked on since the last meeting, that sort of stuff. And the fifth and final part of the meeting is in the weeds, where it's an opportunity to discuss some more long-form topics. Those can either be things that have come out of status updates, or they can be identified ahead of time as kind of a longer or a bigger topic that's going to involve some more back and forth discussions. If you do have in the weeds topics, just drop them in the notes doc down at the bottom. You can just put a little bullet point with your name and write out a couple sentences about what you want to discuss. So with that, we will get into community news next. I will take the first timestamp. So this week in news from the newsletter, I will tell you more generally about where all these items came from here in a moment, but first we'll take a look at some of the items that caught my eye from this week's newsletter. First up, we've got a new Raspberry Pi OS release. Raspberry Pi has just released a new version of Raspberry Pi OS, their recommended and free operating system for the Raspberry Pi computers. It's now available for download. This is likely the final release of the Raspberry Pi OS, which will be based on Debian Bookworm, before Debian Trixie is released this summer. There are links here to Raspberry Pi news and other social media websites. A couple of the new features in this latest release: automatic login options, new printers application, better touchscreen handling, version 0.81 of the libwc Wayland window manager, and Squeak Board Virtual Keyboard, which allows multiple displays, all of which sound pretty cool. In particular, what caught my eye there was touchscreen, which I am pretty excited about. Having good support for touchscreen on Raspberry Pi, I think sounds pretty cool. Next up from the newsletter, we've got CircuitPython 10.0.0-Alpha 4 was released. CircuitPython 10.00 Alpha 4 is an alpha release for 10.0. Further features, changes, and bug fixes will be added before the final release of 10.0.0. This release is nearly the same as Alpha 3, but it has a bug fix. It has a bug fix that breaks finalizers. I think a fix for a bug that breaks finalizers and results in in-use errors. Finalizers will usually release the resources. This release, I should say, also fixes a crash on ESP32CX RISC-V boards. There's a link here to the GitHub release notes, and there are a couple highlights as well, which I'll tell you about this release. There are a number of new audio effects, I believe, over in Synth.io. There's been lots of action there. Improved garbage collection times, I think we talked about last week. That's gotten much quicker. Hug report to Scott for improvements there. ESP IDF has been updated to 5.4.1, and there is some improved audio playback on RP2 devices. Next up, we have the project of the week, which was a self-charging MicroPython robot. This says it was inspired by vintage robot tortoises. Alvik now finds its 3D printed dock and recharges autonomously when the battery is low. And this robot uses MicroPython. There are links here to Hackster.io and other social media. Definitely recommend you check this out if robots are interesting to you. This little thing I thought was pretty cool, and it also sent me down a short rabbit hole this morning learning about robot tortoises, which I was not familiar with those vintage robot tortoises. There's some cool stuff there, and it's nice to see a modern take on something like that. Next up, and rounding out the news items for this week, or at least the ones that I have chosen to include here in the meeting, we have the Boston College Students Showcase. Boston College Physical Computing and CircuitPython Students Showcase for Spring 2025. There are links here to YouTube and Mastodon where you can check out the projects that all of these wonderful students have been working on during the Spring 2025 semester. For folks on Discord, you may have seen the professor around who teaches this course is often around in the Discord in the Help With channel. So really cool to see their students pop up, and I have this one earmarked to take a look at later on today. So all of these items and many more are available in the Python on Microcontrollers weekly newsletter, which is a CircuitPython community-run newsletter that gets emailed out every Monday. The complete archives are available online at adafruitdaily.com. It highlights the latest Python on hardware-related news from around the web, including CircuitPython, CPython, and MicroPython developments. To contribute your own news or project, you can edit next week's draft on GitHub. You can submit a pull request with the changes, or you can also email cpnews@adafruit.com or tag a post with hashtag CircuitPython on Mastodon, Blue Sky, or X. Next up, I will take another timestamp. Here we go. And we will talk about the state of CircuitPython, the libraries, and Blinka. And in this one, we usually pass the baton around a bit, but I think I am the only one who typically reads here, and I don't want to put anyone on the spot, so I will read all of these sections. So we'll start out with overall. Actually, let me do this little intro here. State of CircuitPython, the libraries, and Blinka. That's the section we're going to. As a reminder, this one is a quantitative overview of the entire project. We'll look at the health of the project separate from our status update. First, we will look at the project overall, and then split up and talk about the core, the libraries, and Blinka. So I'll take a new timestamp real fast here. So overall this week, we had lots of action. 36 pull requests merged by 18 different authors, and there are a number of names here that were newer or just unrecognized to my eye. These might be folks who are newer contributors or less frequent contributors, or people whose names have happened to just escape my vision so far. But all of those names this week I've highlighted here to mention out. So thank you to Masha Lib, Roman3349, Hajimef, Dangku, DJ Kabertar, Eric Apton, FB0U, MRV96, Unicode Man, Dominic K7, and Ramel, Rhammel. Apologies if I mispronounced anyone's name, but huge thanks to all of you, as well as all of the other names on this list, who I recognize as more frequent contributors in CircuitPython land. We had 6 reviewers this week. Thank you to Scott, Maker Melissa, Liz, Bob, Mark Gambler, and myself for doing reviews this week. Issues-wise, we had 25 issues that were closed by 9 different people, and 6 new issues opened up by 6 people. So we have taken a nice bite out of issues this week, which is cool to see. Next up, I will tell you about the core section as well. Let me scroll slightly here. So this covers the CircuitPython core, which is the actual C code that drives CircuitPython itself. This week in the CircuitPython core repo, we had 13 pull requests merged by 6 different authors. And I did highlight a couple of those names, but I mentioned them all in the overall section. So just thanks to those folks again, as well as our other authors for the core this week. We also had 3 reviewers this week, thanks to Scott, Mark Gambler, and ADCC. That leaves us right now I should say at the time that these stats were pulled, and I think probably there's less now, but at the time of the stats, there were 25 open pull requests, which is right at that 1-page limit, but I did see in the Discord channel here that I think some of those have been reviewed by now, so we're probably under that limit at this point. Issues-wise, in the core, over the past 7 days, we had 19 issues closed by 6 people, with 2 new issues opened up by 2 people. So again, a nice chunk out of the issues taken this week. That leaves us right now with 760 open issues. There are 9 active milestones, which is how we prioritize the work that the Adafruit-funded folks will work on. In the 10.0.0 milestone, we have 23 open issues, 1 currently for 10.x, 35 for 10.x.x, 7 issues for 11.0, and none for 9.2x, which is good to see. Our stable is still stable, and we've got lots of work ongoing for the upcoming versions. Let's see here. There are, looks like 16 library-related issues open on the core. There are 635 long-term issues, or issues that have the long-term label, 29 that have the support label, and 16 that have third-party. And there are 0 issues that are not assigned a milestone, which is good. We always like to get those assigned as quick as we can. So with that, I will take the next time code and tell you next about the CircuitPython libraries. This section covers all of the Python level code. Libraries tend to be either falling into one of 2 categories, either a driver that helps you interface with a particular piece of hardware, or a helper library that lets you work on a project or some user code at a bit of a higher level without worrying about as many of some of the micromanaging details. We have these libraries split up into a couple of different bundles. There is an Adafruit library bundle, which right now has 360 libraries in it, as well as a community library bundle, which contains libraries contributed by folks throughout the community. There are 163 libraries in the community bundle right now, which brings us to a total of 523 altogether, different libraries that support CircuitPython. There were 7 pull requests merged in the last week by 4 different authors. Thanks to Bablock B, Maker Melissa, Liz, and myself. There were 4 reviewers. Again, thanks to Scott, Maker Melissa, Liz, and myself. Of the pull requests that got merged, there were a couple on the older side of things. We had the oldest one at 139 days. We had one at 75 days, and then the newest couple there at the bottom of the list all were 1 day, like usual. And that leaves us right now with 47 pull requests that remain open. The oldest one of those is a draft that is 998 days, and the newest one is down at 1 day, like usual. In terms of issues, we had 4 issues closed by 2 different people, 3 new issues opened up by 3 people, which leaves us right now with 715 open issues across all of the Adafruit libraries. There are 3 of those currently that are labeled as good first issues, which you can find listed over at circuitpython.org/contributing, which is the website where you should go if you're interested in getting involved in CircuitPython, particularly getting involved on the Python side of things. If you go to that website, circuitpython.org/contributing, the first thing you'll find is a list of open PRs. These are links over to GitHub, which represent a proposed change that someone has made, and it's waiting for someone else to come along and review that change. And that someone to review could be you if you are interested in helping us out. What that involves is basically just clicking through to GitHub, reading about what the PR is, what the changes actually achieve, checking out the changed code locally, look through it for syntax, spelling, logic errors, anything like that. If you have the hardware that library is made for, then you can also go ahead and try to test out that library on actual hardware. Once you have taken a look over the code and tested it if you can, the next thing you do is just leave a comment there on GitHub letting us know that you took a look. Let us know what you found when you looked over the code. If you were able to try it out, let us know how that went and what device you tested on, what versions you used, all of that good stuff. If you would like to get leveled up to leave, official reviews over on GitHub, we can work with you to make that happen, though the comments are honestly just as useful too. If you would also like to start getting your hands dirty writing some of your own code rather than reviewing, on that same page listed before, circuitpython.org/contributing, along the top, there are a couple navigation links. If you click over to the issues link, you will find a similar looking page which contains a big list of links over to GitHub. But these ones, instead of representing a change that someone has already proposed, these ones actually represent an issue. It's waiting for someone to come along and submit a change that will actually resolve that issue. That could be fixing a bug, adding a new feature, changing some functionality, adding a new example, anything like that. So if you would like to get involved on that side of things, you can, again, kind of just look through that list, find something that is interesting to you or that you've got the hardware for, click through to GitHub, read about what the issue is, figure out what new feature it's talking about or bug that it's trying to solve or what have you, and then submit your own pull request with the resolution to that issue. We do have a learn guide for contributing to CircuitPython using Git and GitHub. We also have folks who are around throughout the week who are more than happy to help you out. So if you would like to contribute but you're having trouble, feel free to come say hi on Discord. Let us know what you're working on and what kind of trouble you're having. We would absolutely love to help you out, whether that is with reviewing or contributing your own code. We are happy to help everyone. We want everyone to be able to contribute in whatever way works best. In terms of new and updated libraries, the main ones this week, there's a USB host mouse library in the Adafruit bundle, and then looks like updates to the NRF24L01 library over in the community bundle. And with that, I will take the next timestamp here and tell you a bit about Blinka. So Blinka is the compatibility layer for CircuitPython to run on single board computers like Raspberry Pi. This section covers not only the Adafruit Blinka repo itself, but a number of surrounding repos that implement different various modules of CircuitPython in the Blinka world, as well as some other infrastructure bits alongside it, like platform detect and other things. And it looks like we have had quite a bit of action in Blinka this week, so I think probably we owe Maker Melissa a bit of a hug report here. In Blinka stats, we had 16 pull requests merged by 11 different authors. A number of these names are the folks who were newer or less frequent contributors, or names that I didn't recognize, but we did mention those in the overall section, so thanks again to those folks, as well as a couple of the other names here that were more recognizable to me, more frequent contributors, perhaps. There were 2 reviewers. Again, thanks to Maker Melissa and myself for doing some Blinka reviews this week. There are now 13 pull requests that remain open. The oldest one of those is hanging on out there. It's quite old at this point, 1,300 days. The newest one is at 13 days right now. And I see a couple of PO Matter ones, which I will look into. I did some work on the PO Matter library, so I didn't realize those were open. I'll take a look at those this week, I think. But back to the meeting at hand here. In terms of issues, we had 2 issues closed in Blinka by 2 different people, and 1 new issue opened up by 1 person. That leaves us right now with 157 open issues across all of the Blinka libraries. And there are... Actually, I don't know if that's across all of the libraries or just the core Blinka, but 157 nonetheless. And then number of boards, that's the last stat we have right now. We are supporting 146 different boards with Adafruit Blinka. So next up, I will take another timestamp. I will tell you about the next section, which is the Hug Reports section. Hug Reports is a chance to highlight folks in the CircuitPython community and beyond for doing awesome things. I'll start, then we'll go down the list of Hug Reports alphabetically or as they appear in the meeting. If you're text only or missing the meeting, then I will read your notes for you once we get to them in the list. Otherwise, I will call on you. So I will get us started here. My Hug Reports this week, thanks to Mark Gambler and ADCC, both for doing lots of work reviewing core PRs. Right now we are lighter on core devs, and it's great to have both of you going through and working on reviews. Really appreciate it. Thanks also for me, a Hug Report to Scott for help and direction on some PRs that I was working on this week in the core with the terminal and the tile palette mapper module. And then I also have a group hug for everyone as well. Next up, I will read for Anecdata. Anecdata says, a Hug Report for ADCC for researching deep and wide and ultimately fixing an intermittent safe mode issue on Espressif affecting HTTP server and possibly other things. And I will second that as well. Yeah, that was a quite a perplexing bug that's been there for a while with HTTP server. It's really cool to see that get fixed. So echoing what Anecdata said, thanks to Bob for diving in and figuring that out. And next up, in fact, I will read the Hug Reports for Bob. So ADCC Bob this week says, Hug Report for Foamy Guy, me, for swapping meeting weeks. I need a bit more practice to get OBS just right. OBS is very tricky. Next up, ADCC's got a Hug Report for Anecdata for giving the intermittent ESP32 S2 and S3 crash fix a thorough workout. To Liz, Blitzy DIY, for all the helpful OBS hints, and another hug for Scott for all the help with CircuitPython interpreter crash and devising a long-term solution to register-aware GC for the entire collection of target cores. And then rounding out the Hug Reports, I will read also for Scott. Scott says a Hug Report for ADCC for all of the fixes and reviews, and a Hug Report for Foamy Guy, me, and JP for helping with USB testing. So next up is status updates. I'll take a timestamp and tell you about that. Status updates is our time to tell folks what we're up to individually. I'll start, then we'll go through the list alphabetically or as it appears in the doc. When I call on you, take a couple of moments to talk about what you've been doing since the last meeting or what you'll be doing until the next meeting. If a discussion becomes a bit too long, we can always move it down to in the weeds, and same with Hug Reports. For folks that are notes only, I will read those for you as well once we get to you. So I will kick us off here. Status updates. Over the past week or so, I have worked on a couple of different things, fixing the PDF docs build issue in the core, That ended up requiring just temporarily removing the Weblate badge before we try to make the PDF build. There's a weird sort of "are you a human" thing that's in the mix now when it tries to grab that badge, which doesn't work with the automated PDF building tool. A couple of other core PRs that I worked on this week. One for the terminal to allow it to show 4 spaces in place of the tab character. It used to not actually show anything visually for the tab character, but now with this latest PR, it shows 4 spaces instead, which will make a reoccurrence here in another bullet point or two. But the next core PR that I worked on was for further integrating the tile palette mapper into or with the tile grid. And making the palette mapping be more efficient. When you update the mapping, it will now only cause that single cell within the grid to get refreshed rather than the entire tile grid like it was before, which is nice. And both of the prior 2 things lead me to my next one, which is I did some work in the FruitJam OS editor, changing the visible cursor to use the tile palette mapper. Now that that is more efficient, it can work for the cursor, which makes the code much less complex, and added support for showing and typing tab characters, which of course the 4 space thing from the terminal was instrumental in working on that part. So next up, I will read some notes for ADCC, who says, resolved a hard-to-find issue that was intermittently crashing the ESP32, S2, and S3 boards running HTTP servers. Several reviews and several issues fixed, and continue working on 10.0.0 milestone issues. So thank you to Bob. And rounding out the status updates, I will tell you about Scott's status updates for the week. Scott says 8 weeks of paternity leave starting on Thursday, so I won't be doing notes for meetings. So it looks like this will be our last meeting update from Scott for a couple of weeks here. Let's see. Scott says, have been doing fixes while the baby naps. Also got alpha.4 released. Enabled CloudFront logging so we can get better download counts. I did notice the downloads page changed order. I wondered if the downloads counts had been updated. So yeah, that sheds a bit of light on that. And then the last one Scott mentions here, released alpha.4 and released alpha 4, and then alpha 5 should be coming soon to pick up a few more fixes. All right. And that is it for status updates. Next up would be In the Weeds. As a reminder, that's a section where we can take an opportunity for more longer form discussions. Topics either identified ahead of time or that came out of status updates. We do not have any topics listed this week, and it doesn't look like anyone is rushing to type anything, so I think we will skip past that, and I will wrap it up for this relatively quick meeting. So wrap up this week. This has been the CircuitPython weekly meeting for May 12th, 2025. Thanks to everyone who participated. If you would like to help support Adafruit and CircuitPython, and those of us that work on CircuitPython, consider purchasing hardware from the Adafruit shop at adafruit.com. The video of this meeting will get released on YouTube at youtube.com/Adafruit, and the podcast will be made available on major podcast services. It will also get featured in the Python for Microcontrollers newsletter, which you can visit adafruitdaily.com in order to subscribe to that. The next meeting is at the usual scheduled time next Monday. That's May 19th, and it is at the usual time, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific time. And as always, it will be held here on the Adafruit Discord, which you can join by going to adafru.it/Discord. If you would like to get notified about any changes to the upcoming day or time of the meetings, you can ask to be added to the CircuitPythonistas role on Discord. And that is it for this one. Thanks to everyone who participated. We hope to see you all next week.